It was a wonderful and peaceful day in Maranath. Vlad was running around the streets, excited. A chance to look at a real, proper city, well built, really clean, guarded by armored men. No trash littering the place whatsoever. It was quite a joy for the young Vladimir, who was filled to the brim with energy after having slaughtered men. He even visited the tavern, took a look around and decided, games? No, not for me, sir, but drinks? That would definitely be on the table. It was all quite exciting for the young man. Oh yes, the atmosphere, the drinks, the strangers and their faces, and his new buddy, Tulul, the swordsman. Yes, indeed. The recruit that fought so hard beside Vladimir. He has now joined up. Because he knows a bloodthirsty bastard when he sees one, even if it's a little kid. Just look at those eyes. He's dead inside. But it's not all fun and games in town, because there is not much time to be had. Small, brief reprieve before Vladimir is called to war once more. Truly, though, this keep was something to behold. Such a large structure, such a large fire, pelts, a throne even. Oh, it was all so exciting. Yet, he could not stay here for joy and pleasure. He had to talk to his commander once more to tell her that all was well. And she was happy to see him. Indeed, Vladimir quite enjoyed the company of Corinne. She seemed a bloodthirsty woman herself, with a mind for strategy, tactics, battle. She was also quite short like he was. He was certain that she was also a young warlord in the making. So he did what the only thing a young man of his age could do other than invite her to spar. He invited her to play a devilish game of backjowl. Now, unfortunately, I have no idea how this works or what is even a good idea. Spoiler alert! He was bested, I was bested, like a weak noodle. But Corinne was very happy with the loss, so he couldn't be all too sad about it. It was not long after resting at the castle and being defeated by the superior mind that Vladimir needed to engage in what one might call warfare. Now this was, unfortunately, not the most well-advised combat that his clansmen had seen, and Vladimir feared that Corinne was about to repeat the mistake of her father. But he was a proud lad, and he believed in his liege. But he was not interested in fighting entirely on the front lines this time. No, he needed some distance to the enemies, especially when there are this many. A long bow and a big sword is what was needed. Because he was going to need to cut down a lot of people as well. But he was hoping and praying that people would not just stand still and suck up arrows like little monkeys. When the entire army came to a halt and started walking slowly forward, he was feeling the fear. The arrows were raining down on his fellow soldiers. That is not what he wanted to hear. Their bodies were littering the ground, and his heart was sinking. But there was a superior bow on the ground, luckily. Out with the big blade, taking on the horsemen, he thought, but they ran away immediately. Ill-advised. Time to bring out the bow once more to shoot all the enemies in the face. But it was difficult, and his fellow men were learning defeat. He had to move up. He had to taste the blood of his enemies to really help his fellow man. and there was nothing he could do. The enemy's armor was too powerful. The enemies were all too powerful, and they outnumbered them greatly. As he lay there on the ground, not understanding what had just happened. Once again, a Battanian leader had gravely miscalculated their abilities. Once more, the Empire let the poor Vladimir go on his own way. He was left to his own devices as the proper force of Battanians came closer. It is here that Vladimir found another young noble leading an army. It was Mangus of the Fendungil. He thought perhaps it was of the leader's clan, but it wasn't. I suppose the man didn't have a beard, did he now? What else was Vladimir going to do but to join up with this man? This time, Vladimir thought, it would not be so easy to defeat them. He also made sure that he would get a shield and sword this time, because he had still not recovered from the previous battle fully, but a few well-placed shots and stabs could bring him right back into it. The battle was somewhat reminiscent of last time, only darker, but the amount of men they had on their side this time was making the Imperial's forces look like a wet noodle rather than a ravenous wolf. Even as he shot his arrows and he was not sure he was doing much at all, he could feel the power behind the army this time. He could feel the strength in his fellow man. This was not a lost cause. This was a guaranteed victory. As the horses charged, he was sad that his two-handed weapons were missing. But now he could get up close with his shield and protect himself before coming up to slice at the enemies. That is, if his ally soldier had not blocked his one shot and stopped him from staying in the battle. Vladimir was losing his patience with his fellow Battanians. Would they not allow him to thrive? Would they continue to make poor decisions? Would they block his attacks with their bodies as he tried to kill his enemies? The battle was won, but Vladimir did not feel fulfilled. Battered, bruised, and with no money to speak of, as he needed to pay to be the scout once more, Vladimir was not in the best of moods. It seemed that he had nothing going for him whatsoever, other than the fact that he was getting higher in the ranks slowly but surely. However, it seemed that this Mangus fellow had some ambition as he started a siege on Veron Castle. What he didn't know is that a massive army was gathering nearby. A massive army that would destroy them if another army had not distracted. But that army was bound to fail. They did not join up. Perhaps they weakened the other army enough. Time would tell. But before that army could do anything, Mangus had decided, we are going to strike at this castle. Vladimir was afraid. This was a siege. And from the stories of old, he knew that sieges were dangerous, deadly, and could horrifically scar many people. Was Vladimir ready for such a battle? He couldn't be sure, but it was a frightening sight to behold. The smoke, all the men storming the walls. Next to no siege equipment, just a battering ram. If the enemy's ballistas knew where to shoot, it was all over. It was all down to the ladders there. Not something that Vladimir was looking forward to. To getting slaughtered on the ladders? No, that is not the way that Vladimir wanted to go out. And so, a ballista bolt randomly smashed right into poor Vladimir, robbing him of yet another epic battle of any sort. Fucking hell. Oh. The siege was a success. But Vladimir still did not feel fulfilled as he woke up from thinking he was torn apart. Yet it seemed his shield had just been crushed, but saved his life. Vladimir was not feeling great. And then suddenly, another battle breaks out. A massive battle against the Empire once more. Will this go any different for poor Vladimir? This battle was a little different. This time, they were on the defensive. The enemy had attacked them and was riding up on them rather fast. Not even just riding, but walking as well. All manner of advancing on their position. And they came over the hill with the full force of their fury. But Vladimir had no intention of standing in that line. He was not going to be the first to fall. Not again! His determination failed. Exceedingly hard. After fierce defeats and an abandoning of the army, Vladimir was taken to Denglanis by his new liege, Lord Mangus, and he noticed that a tournament was going on. He was quite excited. And after training some men for his lord, he decided to participate. What he didn't realize is that he could bet all of his earnings on himself as well for a chance at even greater success. Not just glory, but gold too. This was something he could not let up. Could he perhaps win the tournament? It seemed unlikely as his team was failing. But teamwork was not on the enemy's side. It seemed. And he even defeated 3 enemies on his own! Oh, he did, Vladimir, with blood. Blood and guts all over him. He was reinvigorated. It was axing time. He knew he had to be careful. An axe was a powerful weapon. But, alas, sometimes the mouse just doesn't do what you fucking want, does it? God fucking damn it. And as such, all of Vladimir's money was gone. Whilst his first week of service had gone so well, the second week was looking rather shit. Nothing was going right for poor Vladimir. And he did not know what it was. What was he doing wrong? He was doing his very best. And then it happened again. Deserters. This time up north of the lock in Swenring. It seemed that these deserters would not leave them alone. But where were they? For days and days they waited, with no deserters in sight. Had Mangus lost his mind? That is the thought that was in Vladimir's mind. But he had not. Deserters were coming. And a large group of them too. And so on to battle they marched. Over the hills and into the enemies. And then they came. The horsemen rode towards them. What could he do but to strike out with his arrows as they tried to ride him down? Even as they were in close range, he was able to put in some hurt with his bow. Someone even made a comment about eating a liver, and he rather liked the sound of that. It was a chaotic battle, with the deserters' horsemen really putting chaos into the ranks. But that was until the swarm of foot soldiers appeared over the hills. And Vladimir knew where he needed to put his focus. No longer could he look at those horses down the cliff. He needed to ensure that these large swarms of enemies were not coming up to his allies, but the archers. They were all disorganized. They were not all focused on the encroaching army. They were getting slaughtered. Even he was getting slaughtered. It was time to put away the bow. He was nearly defeated, and there was only one way he knew how to reinvigorate himself. Alas, he had known too much pain in this battle, and Mangus proved to be the worst tactician yet. A band of leaderless deserters defeated him. It had been some time after Mangus's defeat to the simple deserters. Vladimir managed to find Corrine again, once more gathering herself in a large army. Now, Vladimir was not so sure about this. He was rather weary of massive battles. He was tired, but he had been training. He had been practicing. He had a small amount of money now. Maybe things were going up. He wasn't quite sure. And then it happened. The order to besiege a castle came. Even further away than the original siege, Thrak'dorei Castle stood up against a mountain. Formidable, defensible, frightening. Would this siege be any different? It seemed it would be different, as two armies combined came down to say hello. But once again, like in the past, the armies were too slow. They did not wish to engage. And the army had other plans. Strike at Thrak'dorei Castle. Once more, siege had been initiated. And Vladimir was not feeling confident. He was afraid. The ballistae, the archers, everything. He felt like an even smaller man against an even bigger opponent. But he took out his bow, he knocked that arrow, and he started firing. He was not going to let their fear get the better of him. He needed that blood. Even as men hid within the walls, unseen, unleashing untold fire upon him, he struck back. His bowmanship, archery, was capable. And even as he struck his enemies at a distance, he felt his body reinvigorated. All of the pains of his enemies just coursing through his body like a tonic of health, keeping him going. Of course, as his arrows ran out and he went to grab some from his fallen comrade, he fell to the same fate. An arrow to the face. But he had fought more bravely this time, and he had managed to defeat some foes. The siege was a success, but was it a success enough for Vladimir? For Corrine, it was good enough. She was very impressed with Vladimir's performance, the sparkling in her eyes showing that she very much enjoyed it. And as such, he was given another promotion. It was an honor. But just as his promotion came, so too did the greatest battle yet. A massive strike from the Empire once more. Would this be it for Vladimir? Or could he finally prove to himself that he was worthy of being a soldier in Corrine's army? Unfortunately, he was too wounded to participate. Waiting in reserve, he waited and waited, hoping that he could regain his strength to join in. But more and more Imperials came by. More and more Imperials streamed in, and it was too late. It was a defeat. Fiorad died in the battle, and Corrine was taken. Vladimir felt his heart sink. And then he rode towards Battania, and his heart sank even more. Veron Castle had fallen to the Imperials as well. He couldn't believe it. He stood in awe of the horror. And then 3 hillmen found him all alone. But he was not alone. His mighty steed, Brown, was with him. And he would not let these bandits get the better of him. Not with thrown rocks. Though his axe was much too short, and so he had to engage with the bow. These 3 bandits' blood would sustain him. If those rocks weren't going to knock him off his socks too soon. 1 bandit fell. Rest were taking his arrows like champions. Until they were hit in the face. The last one deserved a special touch. Right in the face with his axe. He feasted on that blood. Oh, he feasted on it, alright. And so Vladimir continued inward. Further back to Battania. He fled. Everybody had failed. What was he going to do? He needed to be better, to be stronger. And how else to do that than to put it all on the line on a tournament? He needed better equipment. The army's equipment was not good enough. He needed the money to buy better. And that is exactly what he would try to do. To gain the strength. To bring his lieges to where they needed to be. He was going to ensure Battania's victories. On his own if he had to. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate that. And appreciate you even more. Show me some appreciation if you do like this series. And let me know if you like the changes and differences, because the style's pretty far off from what we usually do. Don't feel afraid to say some random shit down in the comments either. I like it all. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.